You're used to this.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do a lot of, you're amazing at media, so this will be easy. All right, here
Wow.
we go.
We'll see.
Yes, we will. No, I'm kidding. Here we go. 100.1 FM, AM 1020 KDKA. This is Cars, Stars, and everything in between. He is the star, Richard Bazzi, Schultz Ford, schultzford.com. And I am Bubba from 100.7 Star. And today we have a story that I'm sure you're going to absolutely love and be inspired by. Diana Napper, welcome to Cars, Stars, and everything in between.
Thank you for having me.
Very
Hi,
excited
Diana.
to have you. Your story is so unbelievable, just unbelievable. So, Richard, I'll let you get started.
Well, you said something, car stars, and that star is a glimmer, and it's Glimmer of Hope, and that's what you represent. I would really like. I mean, you're everywhere. You're everywhere I turn. I hear about your events. I hear about everything you're doing for the awareness of breast cancer. I'm not sure everybody understands why and how you got involved with it. I'd really like to hear your story in your own words, because I don't think there's a question in the world that could uncover the depth of what drives you. So would you mind telling us your story?
Well, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and we moved to the New York, New Jersey area, which is an intimidating area, to say the least. And
why is that?
Well, from Pittsburgh, it's just a whole different mentality. It's a very aggressive area. And I was nervous to be there. I mean, people would say, you like dressing like that? Where are you from? West Virginia? We have that bit of an accent. And so I was very apprehensive about living in New York, New Jersey area. And I was in outside sales, which makes it worse because you have to interact with people all the time. And that's how I met Carol. She was one of my customers. And she was sophisticated and beautiful, and she just helped me tremendously, not only fit in, but sort of had me grow up a bit. So
Carol,
that's how it started.
Carol was a friend of
Carol Jo Friedman.
Carol Jo
Carol
Friedman.
Jo was the reason. Yep.
And she was an inspiration to you, right?
Yes.
And she got you. How did that go? Tell me about that. What happened there?
So I moved back to Pittsburgh. I'm pregnant with my first child. And she calls me and she said, I have breast cancer. And I said, well, certainly you'll be okay. You got mammograms. You did everything you were supposed to do. And she died on Christmas Day 1 year later.
So let me ask you a question along the way. You're making me want to ask so many questions that I didn't want to do. But first of all, because it's interesting, and we're very involved. Ford Motor Company plus our neighborhood Ford store, we're all very involved with this, and I think so much of it's awareness. And you said something. She called you and said she had breast cancer. For me, the first question I would like to know is how old she was when that phone call came.
She had just turned 50.
She had just turned 50. Okay. And for me, when I hear breast cancer, if somebody says, my mother, my grandmother, somebody has breast cancer, forgive me, I'm not sure I take that as serious. Not that I don't take it seriously, but I feel like we've gotten such a good control over it that I don't think it's a death sentence anymore. And I think I'm 100% wrong. And so having you here to dispel some of that for me personally, because it was my grandmother had breast cancer. And so it's in my family. Yeah. And it's in my family. And so I think that, and then I read and see that women don't normally have their exams, but we recommend starting at age 30, right? And we've done all that.
It's 40, but
it's 40.
They recommend baseline of 40, correct?
Okay. And so now you meet Carol Jo in New Jersey?
Correct.
Okay, you meet her in New Jersey. You move back to Pittsburgh. She goes for breast cancer treatment. Is that right? And what happens?
Correct.
What happens from there, Diana?
So I kept in contact with her constantly, and she was becoming very, very, very ill. So Thanksgiving weekend, we made a trip to New Jersey and we took her out to dinner. She was very sick. And I had just, been in the process of buying into a jewelry company to do home parties and so on. And she said, I had a dream about you last night, and you're going to do something with jewelry, and it's going to become really big. And when it does, will you open a hospice in my name?
Oh,
well,
wow.
Right. Well, hospice is really a great place. I mean, there's a need for it, but it didn't fit for me because I wanted her to live. So, back then hospice would have been something I would have just said, okay, I'll do that. I've learned so much. I've learned so much about breast cancer. I learned that there's more hope than ever now for surviving. You are right. We are doing much, much better than we did when she had breast cancer. She was obviously metastatic, that she died so rapidly. And now we have hope for metastatic patients. We have a center where women can go to that's centered on their care. And back then they didn't have anything like that. So we have come a long way, and we've come a long way because people need help. That means that it's metastasized through the body. So in other words, it's all through you is what they think or know.
Oh, I see.
And yet, so that would be discouraging, except that now there are treatments. There are things that women can do.
And so really when it all comes down to it, it's really awareness and education is so much a part of how to prevent this, right? And to get this word out and to dispel all of the rumors.
You need to protect yourself. Right. You need to protect yourself. You need to have screening. Now, where there is a lapse is in young women. So anyone under 40, the insurance companies don't like to pay for their mammograms. We do. We will pay for anyone under 40 that wants a mammogram, along with an ultrasound, which can also protect young women. So the tests that we have to utilize. We can't just say, no, we're not going to, I don't want to get a mammogram. It's painful. Or it's the best we have. So we have to utilize these tools.
Now, Diana, in case somebody's just tuning in and you use the word we kind of haven't established
exactly the same question.
Who is we?
Yeah.
Who is the we?
We have a strong force. Glimmer of Hope, we have a strong force. Our volunteers are, the board. We have a strong advisory board of physicians and, professionals in the community, attorneys, people that are way smarter than me, give me such good direction, especially on this metastatic center. So Dr. Christy Hilton is the driving force behind that center, and that's it, Allegheny Health Network. So when I say we, that's who I mean. And again, way smarter people than I'll ever be who continue to fight for patients on a level that's not possible for me. They actually give them options on medications, treatments, and she's definitely in the battle with these women. So I raise the money, I give it to them, and we do due diligence on the money to make sure that everything goes where it should. But it's really these physicians that have created this center and have embraced these patients.
By the way,
but I still do it in honor of Carol. I mean, again, this is not a hospice. It is a living, fighting center. So that is my hospice for Carol.
If you are just tuning in, this is Diana Napper, Glimmer of Hope. We'll find out more about it and how you can take advantage of the amazing work that she's doing on behalf of her friend. We'll be back with Cars, Stars, and everything in between in moments here on 100.1 FM, AM 1020, KDKA. Stand by. Stand by. All right. And here in a second, we will launch the second break. saving that first break. A little behind the scenes for everybody that's watching us live right now. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. 100.1 FM, AM 1020 KDKA. This is Cars, Stars, and Everything in Between. He's the star Richard Bazzi from Schultz Ford at schultzford.com. I'm Bubba from 100.7 Star, and very much a star in your own right. Diana Napper, Glimmer of Hope. We've been talking about your amazing organization. In the first break, we found out the motivation, where it came from, what motivated you to start this on behalf of your friend. Which was just an amazing story. But tell everybody, just to get started, if nobody's ever heard of Glimmer of Hope, tell everybody exactly kind of what it is that you do with that and how people can help you be a part of it and raise money for it.
So Glimmer of Hope we're Western Pennsylvania based, and we try to keep all of the money here to create protocol that has now gone across the country. I think that the thing about Pittsburgh and the people of Pittsburgh, which Richard, you know it, we stick together. We get done what we need to get done. We look out for each other. But, with that said, we've been able to affect protocol across the world. So it's more controllable, probably, that we don't have, locations all over the country, but yet we can implement protocol. So it's basically it. If there's a problem like with breast cancer, we try to fix it. We try to help patients. We have integrated oncology programs. We have the metastatic center. If you're going through treatment, you can get massage therapy and acupuncture, which helps with outcome. So we try to touch patients, but along with that, we do great research. We just paid $100,000 for a seeds funding for a vaccine that is now across the United States. So every penny that you give us, there's a trail of what it's affecting. And it isn't just Pittsburgh, but it is benefiting Pittsburgh tremendously.
And it's also more involved than just giving money, right? I mean, it takes a lot more than that. It's the effort that it takes to put it together so that it does produce income, so that income can be used for those fundings of those protocols and everything else we do. Because I mean, we could talk about this probably forever because it's such a common thing. One of the things I'm taking away from this is women screening. You're saying under 40. My daughter's 27. I mean, I'm going to talk to her about it, right? Maybe you should start now, right?
Correct.
Early detection is important, we see. In the African American community, is it more prevalent? Right? And we did something with that. And that becomes more of an awareness issue, right?
Correct.
But you guys have done things like that. We had a van, there was a screening van. Is that still out there? That screening van? Go ahead,
we did
please.
right before COVID is we actually brought the women to the hospital because, quite frankly, their equipment on site is much better than a van. So we brought them, we would give them lunch. We had speakers come in to tell them that even if they are diagnosed, there is great hope, but they need to get the screenings. Avoiding screenings is not the answer. It's the only thing we have to protect us. So we went into the communities, we brought them to the hospitals, we educated them, and I believe we have another one at the end of August, but we actually did it prior to COVID. We didn't take the van, we brought them to the hospital.
I remember that, and we were part of it. And that brings me to Quilt for the Cure, because we do that, right?
Phenomenal.
And we do the Quilt for the Cure. Can you tell us about the Quilt for the Cure?
Well, what I believe Ford does is they donate quilts and people raise money from it, but it's an inspirational quilt.
Right.
And yes, so people can actually, well, I think to see something like a quilt, which is a protection, like a blanket, that you're trying to cover these patients, not only with hope, but an assurance that Ford is there for them. That's how I've always looked at it. I thought it's a remarkable program and that it's not a check. It's almost more 100%. Personal to see these patients 100%. See these quilts.
100%. I have a quilt. I have several. that I was presented. I've been part of the presentation committees that uh, have contributed those quilts. I've seen, we go around our neighborhood Ford store, which represents all the Ford dealers within Western New York and Pittsburgh. And we go around and we collect, and actually it's squares, little quilt squares that
Correct.
we have the kids write on and write messages on. And then we have such a thing as a quilter. There are quilters that actually put all those patches together. Yeah, and it's so cool and really is. And they put them all together and they make one quilt. Now I've been part of that. I've seen it. I love it. And that's the quilt for the cure. But it takes so much effort to do. One of the women that are involved with this, our neighborhood Ford store, is Nancy Lewis, who is, and you know Nancy very well. And she sent me a text message that says that Ford, as a Ford Motor Company, has donated more or dedicated more than $139 million to breast cancer awareness over the years. And that's a pretty big commitment, and it's not surprising, of
Wow.
course. But that's the kind, and we provide mammograms for people without insurance and those who have insurance but can't use it because of high deductibles. Um, it's a sad state to me when our insurance coverages dictates our welfare,
Yeah.
and I don't like it. I hate it. That's a whole different conversation, and you know, it
We
really
need a
is.
week.
But yeah. Oh, we do. And you know what though? I have a saying on my email, my personal email address, and I will tell you, and I'll confess to you right now, it's not original. It came from Steve Jobs. It says, the people in the world who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. And so the bigger the
Correct.
goal, the bigger the achievement. And I think that what
Yeah.
you're doing is just absolutely phenomenal. You've dedicated your entire life to this. That
Yep.
Carol Jo must have been a wonderful person. But did you ever think that it would get to be this big? Because a lot of people say things. A lot of people have great ideas, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then it just goes away, just fades away. But you didn't let this fade away.
No, and I always include her, and obviously she's no longer here, but every opportunity I get where I have a story or whatever that talks about Glimmer of Hope, I always include a picture of her or how important it was to me that she believed
Yeah.
that I could do something. The other thing that we're going to add this year to the Metastatic Center is mental health. We're going to literally put a program in that's going to support women on the mental health level, which we all know is beyond important. Being a well person, we need mental health. Now just imagine you're sick. How important that component's going to be. But again, I believe I get direction from her. I know it sounds crazy, but I do believe that she's always with me.
Yes, and that's wonderful. And what I'm not going to do though is, I just, the fact that you do what you do and how you do it, it's mind-boggling to me. And you have events. There are so many components, like you said, you're going to add that one. And then I've heard about the children's movement, right? And I said, my first question was, why? Why do children have to understand about this? And I couldn't really understand or figure it out. I think you have a story about that, about a child
Well,
that
yeah,
approached.
we had an event with the Pirates, and the Pirates allowed the little kids on the field. And one of the mothers came up to me and said, everything that your organization does is great. However, when my 4-year-old goes to preschool and lays his head on the desk and says, my mom's dying of breast cancer, what do I say to him? And honestly, I was taken aback because I don't have that answer either.
Yeah, and I was also
Heart.
taken aback. Yeah.
Somebody needs to have that answer for that child.
Yep.
And if it means, well, you have the best doctor, your mom has the best doctors, but nobody controls what happens next.
Yeah.
We can only try to do our best. And we think the mental health component is going to take care of that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And I didn't understand, and that puts it in perspective. And I knew you had a story about that, but and it was with the Pirates, but it's a wonderful story, and it really is exposes the real need. And mental health, as you mentioned, is unbelievable right now. And we come out of COVID, and we seem to blame everything on COVID, but I mean, I just think it's because we're smarter, we know more, and the more we know, the more questions we ask. And you've answered all of my questions, I think.
I hope so.
Bubba, any questions?
Diana, if there's if anybody wants to find out more about your organization, make a donation or volunteer, how can they find out about Glimmer of Hope?
They can go to www.symbolofthecure.com and or attend our race. We're having a big race October 5th in North Park. So come and support us there, and you'll get to meet us. You'll get to meet some of our docs are going to speak. So just support our events. And you guys do Handbag Happy Hour for us, so come to that.
Absolutely.
The last thing I want to say, and I think it would be remiss if I didn't say this. We're so lucky to live in the city of Pittsburgh, in our cancer centers and our Hillman centers and our everything that we have here. We have some of the finest facilities, some of the finest doctors in the world, and we're right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I think I would have been remiss not to say that.
And we have people like you who help, and Bubba. So again, you can have all the great medical in the world, but you need help. We all need help to get what we need to get done. So I thank you for having me.
Well, you're a wonderful paragon of that, and I really appreciate you being here with us and talking and taking your time. It's just, when you stop and start to think, it slows you down, and you go, wait. I saw Keanu Reeves interviewed by somebody on Instagram, and they asked him, what do you think happens after death? This terrible story. What do you think happens after death? And he says, people that love us will miss us. And I thought that was really powerful, because we do love everybody that is in our life. We love everybody. And we don't want to get to that point where we're losing people. And we can prevent it. We can delay it. We can do everything. We can treat it. So please get your screenings. And that's my call to action. Get your screenings.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you. I really appreciate